All right, hello everyone, this is Miss Turner, and today I'm going to be talking to you about ratios and rates. So yesterday I uploaded 2 folders. You did an introduction to ratios, and then you also did an introduction to rates. We did really well on ratios, but we struggled with rates, and that's okay because we're just now learning it. So I wanted to review some questions about rates with you. And then I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about ratios, but we're going to talk about ratios first. So remember, a ratio Okay, so let's look at our first problem. Says, read the story. Many of the 6th grade students at the Valley Middle School have braces on their teeth. There are 4 students with braces for every 7 students without braces. Pick the diagram that models the ratio in the story. So we are comparing 2 different quantities. We're comparing the amount of kids who have braces for every kid or student without braces. So we need to pick the diagram. Well, I know that 4 is less than 7, so braces was going to be less than no braces. So the correct diagram is the first one. My next question says, there are 28 6th grade students that have braces at Valley Middle School. How many students are in 6th grade in all? So I'm going to underline my question. How many students are in 6th grade in all? All right, so the first thing I need to do is set up a ratio. And I'm going to use 4 to 7. Then I need to find an equivalent ratio. Another word for equivalent is equal. This story, or this part of the word problem, tells me that 28 students have braces. And again, remember, the 4 represents the students with braces, and the 7 represents students without braces. Okay, so because 28 is the amount of students with braces, I'm going to put that as the numerator as well. Now what I need to do is try to find a relationship. I have a multiplication chart that I will upload for you. You need to know your multiplication facts. 4 times, and because I'm going from a small number to a large number, I'm going to be multiplying, and 4 times 7 is 28. So whatever I do to the top of my fraction or my ratio, I must do to the bottom. So I have to do 7 times 7. And 7 times 7 is 49. So I'm have 49 students without braces. Now I'm not done yet, because remember, the question asked me how many students are in 6th grade in all. So I need to find the total number of students. And in order to do that, I'm just going to combine the amount of students with and without braces. So I'm going to do 28 plus 49. 8 plus 9 is 17. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So there are a total of 77 students at Valley Middle School. Okay. My next question. Read the story. Nellie collects unicorn figures. She has 3 glass unicorn figures for every 5 plastic unicorn figures. Pick the diagram that models the ratio in the story. Okay? So how I read it is I'm going to look at my first number first. So I'm going to put that first in my ratio. So I'm going to write 3. And for every, that means a ratio. So I'm going to write a colon. Then my second item is 5 plastic. unicorns. So I'm gonna put 5. So my ratio says 3 to 5. Now I need to find a diagram that models that. So glasses 3, both of those have that, and then 5, this is the first one. This is more than 5. Okay, now the second part says if Nellie has 18 glass unicorns, how many plastic unicorns does she have? Well, I'm going to now write this ratio as a fraction. So I'm just going to write 3 as my numerator and 5 as my denominator. Then I'm going to set that equal to an equivalent ratio. The 3 represents glass unicorns. The 5 represents plastic unicorns. Okay, here it gives me more information. It tells me Nellie has 18 glass unicorns. So I'm going to use that information and put it as my numerator in my equivalent ratio. Because these ratios are equivalent, that means that there's going to be a relationship between these two numbers. So I see a relationship between 3 and 18. Again, my number is getting larger, so I'm going to be multiplying. 3 times 6 is 18. Whatever I do to the top of my number, I have to do to the bottom. 5 times 6 is 30. The question asks how many plastic unicorns does she have? And Nellie has 30 plastic unicorns. Okay. My next example. At the sundae salon, most customers order their sundaes with whipped cream. Last weekend, for every 9 sundaes ordered with whipped cream, there were 2 sundaes ordered without whipped cream. Pick the diagram that models the ratio in the story. Okay, so 9 sodas ordered with whipped cream, and then there were 2 sundaes ordered without whipped cream. And there's that word for every. Normally we see it in between the two numbers, but since it's telling us before, we need to know that that's going to be a ratio. For every means ratio. So 9 sundaes with whipped cream for every 2 sundaes without. So I need to find a diagram that's going to model that. With whipped cream is 9, so with needs to have a lot. That's only 2, so I know that that's not right. My second one is the correct diagram. Now my second part of the question says, if 36 sundaes with whipped cream were ordered last weekend, how many sundaes were ordered without whipped cream? So again, I'm going to take this ratio and write it as a fraction. So 9 over, or for every 2, this is with whipped cream, and the 2 represents without whipped cream. I need to find an equivalent ratio. Equivalent means equal. Now down here, I get more information. It tells me 36 sundaes with whipped cream were ordered. So 36 is going to go as my numerator because that is represented by the people who ordered whipped cream with their sundae, and we are looking for how many people did not want whipped cream. So again, because these are equivalent ratios, they're going to have a relationship between them. Going from 9 to 36, I'm going from smaller to larger, so I'm going to multiply. 9 times 4 is 36. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 2 times 4 is 8. So for every 36 sundae orders with whipped cream, 8 people did not want whipped cream with their sundaes. Okay. And then one last one of these examples. Read the story. Maggie surveyed the 6th graders at her school and found that for every 3 students who could whistle, there were 5 students who could not whistle. Pick the diagram that models the ratio in the story. Okay, again, look, we have for every not in between the 2 numbers like we normally see. So we need to know that for every means it's going to be a ratio. So my first number in my ratio will be 3, because 3 students who could whistle for every 5 students who could not whistle. Now I need to find that diagram, and it's the first one because can is 3, and down here can is more than 3, so can't do that. Now down here it's asking if there are 48 6th grade students who can whistle, how many students are in 6th grade? So now we're not trying to find another part, but we're actually trying to find the whole and the total. So 3 is going to be my numerator, 5 my denominator, and I'm going to set that equal to an equivalent ratio. My equivalent ratio has 48 6th grade students who can whistle, so they're going to go on the numerator. I'm looking for the denominator. I'm looking for how many students cannot whistle. Now, some of these numbers are not going to be on the formula chart, or I'm sorry, on the multiplication chart, so you're going to have to do some exploring. I know that 15 times 3 is 45, and I'm trying to get to 48, so I'm just going to add another group of 3, and look, I get 48. So I had 15 groups of 3 that got me to 45, and then I added another group of 3, so I had 16 groups in total. 3 times 16 is 48, and then I'm going to do 5 times 16, which is 80. Okay, but I almost thought we were done, but we are not. Remember, the question's asking us how many students are in 6th grade, so we need to find the total. And again, finding the total is super simple. All I'm going to do is take the amount of students who can whistle and add it to the amount of students that cannot. So my final answer is there are 128 students in 6th grade. Okay, that was ratios. Now let's start talking about rates. So rates, whenever you're dealing with rates, you're usually dealing with time. Rates, usually the problems are about time. Okay, in order to find the unit rate, remember unit means 1. We're looking for the base price. For example, whenever you go out, like if you go to a football game or back before COVID, or if you went to like a baseball game, people parked and it was a flat cost. It was $20 to park in this parking lot. Okay, now sometimes if you go out to like maybe a festival, you can pay for hourly parking. The unit rate would be how much are you going to pay per hour? Are you going to pay $5 an hour, $6 an hour? That is the unit rate. So we're going to look at this first example together. Find the unit rate. 18 houses on 3 blocks. We want to figure out how many houses are on 1 block. When it says per block, block is singular. It's not plural, so it just means 1. So what I'm going to do is similar to what I was doing with my ratios. I'm going to set up fractions. I have 18 houses on 3 blocks. Set equal to I don't know how many houses over 1 block. Now, before we were multiplying, this is when we're going to get into some division. So, 3 blocks turning into 1 block. I'm going from a larger number to a smaller number. So I'm going to be dividing. I'm going to divide by 3 because any number divided by itself is always 1. 18 divided by 3 is 6 because I know 3 times 6 equals 18. So there are 6 houses per block. Let's look at an equivalent rate. So a rate that is... So now we're going to look at the second problem. We need to find the missing number in order to complete the proportion. 12 apartments on 2 floors is equal to 6 apartments on how many floors? So what I can do to solve this problem is set up a proportion, like we've been doing since the beginning of school. So 12 is my numerator, and that's 12 apartments over 2 floors. We're going to set that equal to an equivalent ratio. They have 6 apartments, and we want to know on how many floors. Again, I'm going from my large number to my small number, so I'm going to be dividing. 12 divided by 2 is 6 because I know that 6 times 2 is 12. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. So 2 divided by 2 is actually 1. So this is also actually a unit rate. Okay? It's the same steps. You're setting up a proportion, you're finding the relationship, and you're solving for the question mark. All right, just solve the proportion. I have 2 over 1 equals D over 6. So I need to find a relationship. 1 times what number can get me to 6? 6. 1 times any number is that number. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 2 times 6 is 12. I can prove that because 2 over 1 reduces down to 2, and 12 over 6, I can do top in, bottom out. 12 divided by 6, 6 goes into 12 2 times, and these answers are equivalent. They are equal. Okay, let's do one last practice problem. Every summer, Kendra plants a vegetable garden in her yard. Last year, she planted 6 rows of tomatoes and 8 rows of peppers. Kendra wants to keep the same ratio this year, but she only has plans to plant 3 rows of tomatoes. How many rows of peppers will Kendra plant this year? All right, so I need to find my first ratio. My first ratio is going to be 6 rows of tomatoes, and it's also going to be 8 rows of peppers because we need to keep the same ratio. 6 to 8. 6 to 8. 6 tomatoes and 8 peppers. Now I'm going to write this as a fraction. 6 as my numerator, 8 as my denominator. I'm going to set that equal to find an equivalent ratio. This is asking me, or this told me she only had plans to plant 3 rows of tomatoes. So I'm going to put 3 as my denominator. 3 as my numerator on this equivalent ratio. Then what I'm going to do, because I'm going from a larger number to a smaller number, I'm going to divide. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So how many rows of peppers will Kendra plant this year? She will plant 4. Alright, so that was the last problem. If you have any questions for me, you can message me on Schoology. You can send me an email. I send out my number in an email. You can text me if you need anything. I'm here. Your assignment for after you watch, for when you're done watching this video, is to post a comment in this discussion board below discussing what you learned from this video.